Good afternoon, Las Vegas. So who was here last night for the dinner where I did the book signing? So this is my new book, Bitcoin Supercyle. Just came out last week. Simon & Schuster's distributing it. It's on Amazon, published by Skyhorse. And it's number one right now under new releases for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. It's been that every day since it's come out. And in this book, I predicted that we were going to hit the all-time high this month. Almost to the day. How did I know? Because there's this thing called the 4 seasons of Bitcoin. And I've been talking about this for years. I've been in crypto and Bitcoin since early 2013. I'm one of these guys who basically look at new technologies and say, I wonder if this is going to change the world. I mean, when I was a kid, I saw computers, I was going, this could do something. And the internet, I was like, okay, this is really going to do something. When I saw in the early 90s that you could go on the web and type Louvre.fr, and all of a sudden you're walking around the Louvre in France, that wasn't just SneakerNet, or that wasn't just a local area network. That was the worldwide network. And it did change the world. And Bitcoin, blockchain, and cryptocurrency is changing the world. It's still in its very early days. I'm going to just talk about Bitcoin, not about all the other things, which are important as well, but it all began with Bitcoin. In the beginning, there was Bitcoin. Satoshi Nakamoto, the pseudonym, is basically who wrote the white paper, came up with the word blockchain, came up with the concept blockchain. In the book, I talk about the cypherpunks, which for 30 years developed the building blocks for what Bitcoin became. But it was Satoshi that put everything together. And it's a 9-page paper, which I include in the book, and I annotate it. Because what frustrated me, and the reason I wrote this book, was after 11 years of being in the space, I would talk to very intelligent investors in real estate, in high tech, in clean tech, and you name it. And they were always interested in learning about new technologies, but when I would talk about Bitcoin, they go, oh, I don't know, man. That's isn't that thing that like some crazy guy that nobody knows who he is? And I asked my broker, he said it was a scam. Yet they're going to go and look at some really obscure, new technology that they don't understand either. Who understands AI right down to the core, right? Not that many people, but people just plow into investing in LLMs. So it's not too late to get into Bitcoin. I'm going to dispel a few myths. Yes, it was better if you got in when it was $1 or $10 or $100 or $1,000 or $10,000. We're not quite to 100,000. We got very close last week. But every time it gets to a higher level, it gets safer. I mean, we have almost zero risk right now of the United States government saying, we're going to shut it down. In fact, we now have the first Bitcoin president. Let's hear it for Donald Trump. We now have a situation where instead of chasing people offshore, we have, a president who says, and Todd is, of course, down on his knees saying, thank you, Jesus, saying we want all Bitcoin to be mined right here in America. And, obviously the Biden administration felt very differently, Elizabeth Warren, the globalists, and that's all going away, at least for the next 2 to 4 years. And you can do a lot of positive good in the next 2 to 4 years. And part of it is going to be the Bitcoin strategic reserve that both Trump and the Senate have talked about. We already have a strategic reserve for oil, right? We don't want to run out of it. And we have it for gold, which has been the backing for the dollar and for many other currencies for 6,000 years, up until Richard Nixon decided that, we don't want to keep sending gold out of the United States to pay for our miserable trade deficit. So we decided, let's just start printing money. What could go wrong? Well, now you're seeing what could go wrong. There's never been an economy that was based on just printing money, fiat currency, as they call it, that has ever lasted much more than 50 years. We're right at about that 50-year mark now, and you can see all the problems that it's causing. Now, people ask why the price of Bitcoin has kept going up. The real question, as my friend Patrick Byrne from Overstock said, is how low can the dollar go? You could buy a house 10 years ago for average house in the United States for about 20,000 Bitcoin. Today you can buy it for 3 Bitcoin. So where's the inflation? Where's the sort of real money? And so that's what Bitcoin is, and it's becoming stronger all the time. What I talk about here is because a lot of investors are afraid to get into Bitcoin because they don't know where it's going tomorrow. If you have a long-term perspective, you can't go wrong. There's never been a 5-year period in history where 5 years later you didn't look and your Bitcoin was worth a lot more in US dollars. Now, if you buy at the very top and you panic sell at the bottom, of course you're going to get hurt. You could do that in Tesla, you could do that in Google, you could do that in a lot of companies, technologies, and other investments. But if you bought 1,000 Bitcoin in 2012, it was about $12,000 back then, and just held it, last week you could have sold it for $99 million. Nice investment. On the other hand, if you did what I talk about in my book, which is understanding the cycles, there's 4-year cycles. They're absolutely as reliable and dependable and predictable, within variances, of course, like anything else, as the sell in May and go away that you have in the stock market, as the 10-year cycles that gave us crashes in 1929, 1989, a little after 1999, 2009. Why didn't we have a crash in 2019? Oh, that's right, they kept on printing money. We're going to have a much bigger crash when the bubble actually pops. And your hedges are gold, which is why it's going up, despite a lot of manipulation that's always happened in the gold markets historically. And Bitcoin, which is at its all-time high. And it's going to go higher. Again, not how high Bitcoin can go, how low can the dollar go. And so it's a great hedge against inflation. But within the cycle, every cycle it goes quite a bit higher. But within the cycle, you have 4 periods. I call them 4 seasons of Bitcoin. Bitcoin spring is what starts the cycle. It's the day of the halving. That's when the amount of new Bitcoin gets cut in half algorithmically. Unlike OPEC, when they say we're cutting oil and the price of oil goes up, they can actually shut off machines and the others are just as efficient as they were before. With Bitcoin, it's shut off from the source. The algorithm starts handing out to the miners who earn it through math, it hands out half the size reward. In the first 4 years, it was 50 Bitcoin every 10 minutes, and you could pretty much mine it with a laptop. Today, it takes a supercomputer that is 95 trillion times more difficult, and you only get 3 1/8 Bitcoin. So 1/16 the amount of Bitcoin, 95 trillion times as hard. Why is that? Because the network is bigger and you have to secure it. You have to make it impossible for someone to go and break the network and unwind all the transactions, or at least the record of the transactions, or destroy the currency. And so that's what makes Bitcoin immutable. It makes it very valuable. For the first couple of months after the halving, there are 2 forces that are countering each other. The first force is knowing the price is going to go up, so people want to buy. The second thing is that miners start losing money. They go from an average of about 20% profit to about 35% loss, because all of a sudden the same cost, half the reward. Obviously, you can do math, simple math. And it takes a while for the algorithms to adjust, for miners to shut down and get new machines, move to different jurisdictions, improve their math on how they make money, and then ultimately for the price to go up. And as the price goes up, the day that it clears the hurdle of the high from the last halving cycle is the day it goes parabolic. That has happened every single time. It happened in 2013 when the price reached $30, the high of the last cycle. It happened in 2017 when it passed $1,250, the high of the prior cycle. It happened in December of 2020 when it passed $19,800, the high of the prior cycle. And this time it happened when it passed $73,850, and boom, it was in the 90s within a few days. Obviously, some of the macro, like Trump being elected, helped. I think if Kamala was elected, it might have taken a few more weeks, but it would not have put us off the chart to go up about 3x this cycle. The super cycle math is where you then have an even greater return based on higher adoption. We're only about 7 or 8% of the global population at best that has crypto. It will be 80% in the next 10 or 15 years. That's when we get to $1 million Bitcoin. Now, the thing that I suggest is not just to buy and hold, but to go and buy and then sell near the top, and I show in the book how you can do that. It's pretty predictable. It's been within a 37-day period the last several halvings. It was November or December of the year after the halving each time. And then you go in and you take that money, you hold on to it for about a year, and you buy back 3-4 times as much Bitcoin. You repeat that a few cycles, and you're in really good shape. So a surprise that we have is Todd bought a bunch of books for the VIPs, but we have some left over. So everybody who stayed here late until we run out of books will get one at the signing right after you hear from Todd and from Bill O'Reilly, and thank you very much.